In this video we are going to talk about Australian wine industry. So before starting this video, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future updates. The Australian wine industry is one of the world's biggest exporters of wine, with roughly 800 million out of the 1.2 to 1.3 billion litres created yearly traded to abroad markets. The wine industry is a huge supporter of the Australian economy through creation, work, product, and the travel industry. There is a $3.5 billion homegrown market for Australian wines, with Australians drinking roughly 500 million litres yearly. Norfolk Islanders are the second greatest per capita wine buyers on the planet with 54 litres. Just 16.6% of wine sold locally is imported. Wine is delivered in each state, with in excess of 60 assigned wine districts totaling roughly 160,000 hectares, but Australia's wine locales are chiefly in the southern, cooler pieces of the country, with grape plantations situated in South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, Tasmania, and Queensland. The wine locales in every one of these states produce different wine assortments and styles that exploit the specific terroir, for example, climatic contrasts, geology and soil types. The significant assortments are transcendently Shiraz, Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay, Merlot, Semillon, Pinot Noir, Riesling, and Sauvignon Blanc. Wines are frequently marked with the name of their grape assortment, which should comprise no less than 85% of the wine. History. Early Australian winemakers confronted numerous troubles, especially because of the new Australian environment. But since it is additionally warm, dry, and Mediterranean by and large, making Australia ideal for wine creation, they in the end made significant progress. At the 1873 Vienna exhibition, the French appointed authorities, tasting blind, applauded a few wines from Victoria, however pulled out in fight when the provenance of the wine was uncovered, because wines of that quality must plainly be French. Australia has quickly turned into a world forerunner in both the amount and nature of wines it produces. For instance, Australian wine products to the US rose from 578,000 cases in 1990 to 20 million cases in 2004, and in 2000 it traded more wine than France to the UK without precedent for history. The business has now and again experienced its own efficiency. In the last part of the 1980s, states supported producers to take out their plants to conquer an overabundance of winograpes. Low grape costs in 2005 and 2006 have prompted requires one more supported plant pull. Clean skin wines were brought into Australia during the 1960s as a way to battle oversupply and unfortunate deals. During the Black Summer bushfires of 2019 to 2020, winemaking was unfavorably impacted underway regions struck by fire or smoke, which influences flavor through smoke corrupt. The Adelaide Hills wine locale was especially gravely hit, losing up to 30% of his grape plantations. A few winemakers tracked down creative ways of getting around the issue of polluted grapes. Grape assortments. Significant grape assortments are Shiraz, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, and Riesling. The nation has no local grapes, and Vitis vinifera assortments were presented from Europe and South Africa in the late 18th and mid-19th hundreds of years. A few assortments have been reared by Australian viticulturists, for instance Sienna and Tarango. Despite the fact that Syrah was initially called Shiraz in Australia and Syrah somewhere else, its sensational business achievement has driven numerous Syrah makers all over the planet to mark their wine Shiraz. Around 130 different grape assortments are involved by business winemakers in Australia. Over ongoing years, numerous winemakers have been rediscovering purported elective assortments other than those recorded previously. Numerous assortments from France, Italy and Spain, for instance Petit Verdot, Pinot Grigio, Sangiovese, Tempranillo, Nebbiolo, Malbec, Barbera, Arnice, Fiano, Grape, and Viognier are turning out to be more normal. Wines from numerous different assortments are being created. Production. Australia's most popular wine is Penfolds Grange. The extraordinary 1955 classic was submitted to rivalries starting in 1962 and over the course of the years has won in excess of 50 gold decorations. The classic of 1971 won first award in Syrah/Shiraz at the Wine Olympics in Paris. The 1991 of a kind was named Red Wine of the Year by the Wine Spectator magazine in 1995, which later evaluated the 1998 classic 99 brings up of a potential 100. wine pundit Hugh Johnson has called Grange the main first growth of the Southern Hemisphere. The compelling wine pundit Robert Parker, who is notable for his adoration for Bordeaux wines, has composed that Grange has supplanted Bordeaux's Petrus as the world's most colorful and concentrated wine. Other red wines to collect global consideration incorporate Henschke Hill of Grace, Clarendon Hills Astralis, D'Arenberg Dead Arm, Torbreck Runrig and other top-of-the-line Penfolds wines, for example, St. Henri Shiraz. Australia has just about 2,000 winemakers, the majority of whom are little winery activities. The market is overwhelmed by few significant wine organizations. The biggest wineries are the Casella Winery in Yenda, NSW, Yellowtail Wines, and the Barry Estates Winery in Glossop, SA. The responsibility for fluctuates, however. Their area has to a great extent been something similar. Starting from the presentation of hardened steel tanks during the 1990s, there was a significant change in the wine business during the 1980s when neighborhood winegrower cooperatives stopped tasks or were privatized. Most of grapes are filled in warm environment locales, including the Riverina, Murray Valley and Riverland wine districts, situated in southern NSW, northwestern Victoria and South Australia. A 2019 report by the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission inspected grape creation here and the bunch contest and shopper issues confronting cultivators. GSM mixes. GSM is a name normally utilized for a red wine comprising of a mix of Grenache, Shiraz, Syrah, and Mourvedre. Blends where Shiraz is the primary part are at times alluded to rather as SGM. This mix began from those utilized in some southern Rhone wines, including Châteauneuf-du-Pape. However, it is additionally tracked down in South Australia, California, especially Paso Robles, starting with Tublas Creek Vineyard, and Washington, Columbia Valley. More modest creation exists in Argentina and South Africa. A very much like mix is customary to Priorat, in Catalonia, Spain, actually founded on Garnacha, yet adding Mossuelo, Syrah, and Merlot. Grenache is the lightest of the three grapes, delivering a light red juice with delicate berry fragrances and a touch of hotness. As a mixing part, it contributes liquor, warmth and fruitiness without added tannins. Shiraz can contribute full-bodied, beefy kinds of dark foods grown from the ground. It adds tone, spine and tannins and gives the feeling of equilibrium such mixes require. Significant wine regions. The data remembered for wine names is completely managed. One part of this is that the name should not offer any bogus or deceiving expressions about the wellspring of the grapes. Many names, called geographic signs, are secured. These are partitioned into southeastern Australia, the state names, zones, displayed in the guide, locales, and subregions. The biggest volume of wine is delivered from grapes filled in the warm environment Murray-Darling Basin zones of Lower Murray, northwestern Victoria and Big Rivers. As a general rule, a higher esteemed premium wines are produced using more modest and cooler environment locales. Queensland is likewise fostering a wine industry with north of 100 grape plantations enlisted in the state. A few eminent wines are created in the high-height granite belt locale in the state's super south. Creation is focused on the towns of Stanthorpe and Ballandian. The South Australian wine industry is liable for a large portion of the creation of wine in Australia. As of late, the Tasmanian wine industry has arisen as a maker of top-notch wines. Specifically, the Tamar Valley has gained notoriety for its Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, which are appropriate to the cooler Tasmanian environment. Send out markets. The Australian wine trade market was worth $2.8 billion Australian dollars, a year in June 2007, having developed at 9% PA. Of this, about $2 billion Australian dollars is represented by North America and the UK. 2007 measurements for the North American market show that Australian wine represented a 17% portion of the complete worth of US imported wine, behind France with 31% and Italy with 28%. New promoting procedures produced for the key UK market urged clients to investigate premium Australian brands while keeping up with deals of the lower-edge high-volume brands, following exploration that showed a celebratory supper was bound to be joined by a subpar French wine than a top-notch Australian wine. Australian wine represents an extremely enormous imported wine piece of the pie in South Asian nations and is the second biggest imported wine in India with a piece of the pie of 16%. Australia is China's biggest provider of imported wine, a standing accomplished to some degree by international alliances laid out between the two countries. Canada is the fourth biggest commodity market for Australian wines, with the significant sending out areas being British Columbia, Ontario, and Quebec. With the limitations on the offer of Australian wine being eliminated in British Columbia, Australian wine will be on more retires in the territory with lower levies. What do you think about this video? Do let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from us again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.